Hey everyone, this is the Halifax Real Estate Podcast. My name is Jason Paul and I'm a licensed realtor at Keller Williams Select Realty in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm here to help you gain a better understanding of real estate in Halifax and introduce you to a wide variety of people that work in or with our industry as well. David Dawood is the founder and operator of Abacus Residential Appraisals. David is a recognized expert in the field of real estate appraising and has appraised homes across Nova Scotia for a variety of purposes. Please welcome David Dawood. Hey, David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. First off, thank you so much for doing this. It's been fun trying to get scheduled with the new twins, right?
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. I guess for the first question would be, what is an appraisal?
Okay, an appraisal should be an unbiased opinion of value.
Okay.
So what we're looking for is the market value. Market value is defined with 5 parameters. It's a knowledgeable buyer,
Yep.
a knowledgeable seller, agreeing on a price, with the subject being exposed to the open market without any motivation. Okay?
Interesting.
So what does that mean? That means if you had put your house on the market, let's say 90 days ago for a 90-day exposure, it would have sold for X as of the date of inspection. Okay?
Okay.
And it needs to meet those 5 parameters to meet the test for market value. And that's basically all it is.
That's an interesting thing to say, just because I can't imagine a house being on the market for 90 days right now.
Not right now in Halifax, that's for sure. But it's atypical for the area.
Yeah.
Right? We usually look at a 90-day exposure time.
Okay.
Because that would make it so we would remove any of the motivation.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes we'll see, not in this market. Sometimes we'll see a house that sells within 1 or 2 days, and we look at the market trend, and we see that it falls outside of the market trend. So we would try to figure out well what happened here? Was there buyer motivation? Was there seller motivation? We really need to account for those 2 things.
Yeah. Do you do a lot of appraisals for the bank when you're assessing properties?
So yeah, we do some appraisals for the banks.
Okay.
Right. And the majority of our business is separation, divorces, estates. Right. But we do some appraisals for the banks, and the banks are just looking to see what it's worth to hedge their bets.
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Yeah. So that's
okay.
basically what it is. Yeah.
How did you get into appraisals?
Well, I mean, I used to buy property, renovate, rent, and then sell.
Yep.
And then I realized, well, I love real estate. What do I want to do with real estate? So, do I sell it? Do I appraise it? Do I inspect it? A very good friend of mine was an appraiser. His dad approached me. He said, "Do you want to be an appraiser?" I said, "Absolutely." And then I started working for his firm. 3 years after, I started my own, and here we are.
Wow. So you started your business in 2017?
No, I started business in 2013.
Oh, 7 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
How are you finding the market with your business? Are you getting a lot of appraisals done? I know you said your clientele is mainly divorcees and that stuff, but are you doing a lot of work for realtors right now?
Right. So we do, like I said, mostly estate, separation, divorces, and, it has gone up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that we see a lot of people coming and say, well, I need to know what the value of my home is to separate the assets. And so that's what we do. Yeah, but it has gone up. And also obviously for mortgages refinance, because the supply is so low that, the equilibrium price has gone up.
Yep.
And the banks are like, well, wait a second, let's get everything appraised because we just don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah, it's hard. The escalation in Halifax is so fierce right now. It's hard to really get a vibe on what home value is now. I'm telling clients after 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 competing offers, people are just writing numbers on a page to buy it. And that's just
right. You have to be careful there because what happens is, let's say, the emotional curve is very high.
Yep.
Right. So let's say somebody falls in love with a house. They're like, we want to buy, we have to buy it. Right. That's $500,000. They say, okay, well, let's put $650,000. We're going to buy it.
Yep.
Right. Well, if it's outside of the market trend, you may very well be overpaying $150,000 for that house.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So take a step back, realize, that you don't need to buy right away. You may not need to buy right away.
Hopefully you don't.
Hopefully you don't. Take a breath, and then, reassess where is the market, what is this house really worth,
Yep.
and then, make a decision from there.
Okay.
Because I've seen, sometimes I have to kill the deal.
Yeah.
Right. I remember one on St. Margaret's Bay Road. He was spending, a good $100,000 over asking, something to that effect. There was no way I could justify it. None. And I went back to the broker. I said, I can't justify this. So I won't be appraising it. And then they actually got another appraiser to do it. And I'm not sure what happened, but if he had to put an extra, $100,000 down of his own money.
Yeah.
But since it is the highest sale in the area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the highest. And nothing even comes close. So, did the guy overpay for that property? Right?
Yeah. No one can see the shoulder shrug.
Oh yeah, nobody can see the shoulder shrug.
I get it.
That $100,000, that means that's quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Right. So
the scariest thing is being the highest purchase in a neighborhood.
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't want to be the most expensive house on the street.
That's right.
You want to be around the middle, and if you're looking for a flip or an investment property, you want to be around the lower echelon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Exactly.
You said you had experience in renovating and renting and selling properties.
Right.
So, for an appraisal, right? When you're going in, when someone's doing renovations, what do you see in a house as the greatest return on an investment when you do a renovation? Like, what parts of the houses can you get the most bang for your buck?
All the deferred maintenance.
Okay.
Right. That is the best bang for your buck. So what does that mean?
Yeah.
That means, okay, so let's say you're buying a house. It has, knob and tube wiring. It's got asbestos. It has, cracks in the foundation. The deck is falling apart, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Put your money in there first, right? Don't put your money in, kitchens and bathrooms when you have some deferred maintenance that you have to take care of, right? Your windows are leaking, right? Well, do the windows.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you're going to buy a house and, the inside is, average. There's still economic life left to it. And you decide, okay, well, I don't really like the colors of the cupboards. I'm going to gut the kitchen. I'm going to throw in a new kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? Well, if there's nothing wrong with the kitchen, you're not adding a 1-to-1 in terms of value. Right. So you really need to take a step back and say, okay, well, what is going to be my best return on investment? And it always is, the deferred maintenance.
Okay.
Right?
So by just to classify this term, deferred maintenance, you mean like someone who's deferred redoing a roof for 10 to 15, 20 years.
Exactly.
Someone who has seen the windows leaking in their house and has said, I'm going to take care of this later because it's going to be a pain in the ass.
Exactly.
So that's what we mean by deferred maintenance is that's an interesting take on it because as realtors, it's almost always exclusively said, bathrooms, kitchens, masters, en-suites are always your biggest return if you do a good renovation on them. Even it's funny to hear that because we're kind of educated in a sense that when you do a roof, foundation, a deck, a window, that they're almost expected to be functional. So to just expect a 1-for-1 return, you know what I mean? That you're not going to get the 2-to-1, the 3-to-1, the 4-to-1. So it's interesting to hear that take from a professional in that field.
Right. So the three main contributors to value in real estate are always location, size, and condition.
Yeah.
Those are the three, right? So, realtors say location.
We all
right?
do.
Anyway,
Yeah.
It isn't. It's location, size, and condition. Why is that? Because there could be a shack next door.
Yeah.
Obviously, your house is going to sell for more, right? The house we're sitting in, beautiful home.
Yeah.
Why is that? Not because of the location, but because of the size and because of the condition.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're asking, what's the best bang for your buck? Obviously, you can't change the location. So obviously, it would be the size first and then the condition. So you really need to, when you're going through a home, you really need to assess whether or not the condition is at a point where you should be gutting your bathrooms, you should be gutting your kitchens. Because if you're gutting a kitchen that's 10 years old that doesn't need to be replaced, I don't know that you'd be making a 1-to-1 if let alone a 2-to-1 or a 3-to-1.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, depending on the functionality of it.
Exactly. And the condition of it. So when you're going to be doing a renovation, your best bet right, is to analyze what is on the market, what is sold
Yep.
in the condition that your house is going to be in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say, okay, I'm going to buy a 2-story home. It's, 1960s, and I'm going to renovate. I'm going to sell it after.
Yes.
All right. So cost doesn't equal value.
No.
Okay. I can show you a home. I appraised an island off the coast of Chester. It was $1,000 a square foot in terms of the build. 15,000 square feet. Go ahead.
Is that the one that's like the huge large mansion for sale on an island just off Chester?
Yeah, I just sold.
Yeah, for like how much?
It sold for $4 million.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure I'm thinking about the right property, and it's that one.
I'd be surprised they spent less than $15 million building it.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
So the cost doesn't always equal value. The highest sale in Nova Scotia, my apologies, the highest sale in Halifax,
Yep.
right, was on the Northwest Arm, right, sold for $6.9 million. Okay.
Yep.
Northwest Arm. Okay. He spent $18 million building it.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that's kind of
Well, we all, in terms of value as realtors, when we're selling a home, we always let the sellers know that value is in the eye of the buyer because it's the buyer that chooses the price.
okay. So here's the thing.
Yep.
I could sell my phone for $1,000.
Okay.
Okay, I can find a buyer. He's going to buy my phone for $1,000 because for him it's worth $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay, it isn't worth $1,000.
No.
It's worth $250.
Yeah. It's in the eye of the buyer, right?
But, exactly.
Yes.
But that isn't market value.
No.
Market value is within the market trend.
Okay.
Okay, it's an aggregate of all the sales.
Yes.
Okay, so. So when people say that, say, oh, a house is what people are, or someone is willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily true.
No, of course. You can overpay for something.
Exactly. That's exactly. You overpay for something, and obviously you can underpay for something.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So getting that house, the 1960s house again, right? So you're going to buy one. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to renovate, and I want to sell. I want to flip it. Okay. The real estate market is based on the principle of substitution.
Yes.
Okay. Principle of substitution, it's a universal principle, whether you're selling a bag of apples, a car, a house,
Yep.
right? It doesn't matter. It's the same. It's no one is willing to pay more when there's an equal substitute on the market for less. Okay. So no one's going to buy my van for $5,000, or maybe, 25 grand when there's one next to it for 20.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
No one's going to buy, and once again, my phone for $300 when there's one on the market for $250.
And they're the exact same.
It is the same for any market.
Yes.
Okay. So what you have to do, you say, okay, well, I'm going to buy this house, let's say for $250,000, and I'm going to rent it. I'm going to put $125,000 into it.
Yep.
You have to go and see what is sold and see what's active on the market, see what your house is going to be competing against in the market after your renovations.
Of course.
So let's say you buy it for $250 and you say, okay, I'm going to put $125 into it, but the highest sale in similar condition as if complete is $325.
Yep.
Well, you're not going to get a return on your investment, your $125,000 investment, if the highest sale at that condition and that size is $325.
Yes, of course.
Okay. So you really need to look at, okay, well, I'm going to buy a home. I'm going to see, before buying the home, look at what is sold in the market at that size and the condition that you're thinking that you're going to be renovating it in.
Yep.
And then make a decision there.
Yeah, of course.
From there.
Yep.
Right? Because it really is based on the market data. We're just tied to the market data.
That's all we are.
That's it.
That's all we can go by.
That's all you can go by.
When you look at the actives, the solds, the expireds are also a really good indication, because anything that hasn't sold is an indication of, maybe they're priced too high, maybe they weren't in the proper condition of the market and they were not a reflection. We call those comps, right? In real estate, we're like, look at your comps, see what's going on in the market. It'll give you a good idea of where you are.
Right.
And that's the best thing you can do when you're going for a renovation, a resale, a flip, any type of investment for the purpose of not living in the home, but to use it to make a profit. Your comps are going to lead the entire way.
Right. And it shows you're looking at the actives and the expireds.
Yeah.
That'll kind of show you the threshold for the market as well.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing you say, because I'm going to go right back to the beginning when you were saying deferred maintenance. Because you could buy a home that has a really nice open concept kitchen, but has a bad roof. You do the deferred maintenance and also let's just on a bad foundation, but it could just be a couple cracks in the wall that they can mend.
Right.
To be able to go into a house and do those things, you are adding a ton of value because that house is now functional again.
Yeah, exactly. But it would be 1-to-1.
Yeah, that would be 1-to-1.
Okay, so because the consumer is going to come in and say, oh, lovely home, but I know the house, the roof needs to be done. It's 20 years old. I'm going to have to reshingle it.
Yeah, and that is the expectation most buyers have.
Yeah.
Actually, I would say 9.9% of buyers have the expectation that when we're spending $250,000 on a house, I expect that the roof is fine. I expect that the foundation's fine. I expect that the windows work. And if not, I expect to be able to get a compensation to go on to do this maintenance work. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The market doesn't yield that expectation right now, but even those homes that have faulty roofs and foundations are still taking a longer to sell than the brand new move-in readies.
Right. But I'd suggest that, that is because of the atypical demand that has come into the market and the dearth of supply in the market.
Yeah, it's all real estate supply and demand.
Right.
That's all. It's demand so high, supply so little. People are willing to now do what they have to do to get into a house.
Yeah.
Which is what's happening.
And what they should be doing is saying, well, wait a second. Do I have a place to live? Yeah, I have a place to live. Right. Is the market super hot right now? Yeah, it's super hot right now. Should I be buying when it's high? Well, you can't see my shoulder shrug, but no, maybe you shouldn't be buying when it's high.
Yeah.
Maybe you should be buying when it's, balanced or low.
Yep.
Right. So, the people that have this, are super excited about this home, super excited to buy. Well, there's a good chance you may overpay because your emotion is so high. In
your experience in your career, what have you seen the consequence of someone overpaying for a house?
Well, they'd obviously be underwater, right? And, I mean, the stress that comes with it, and you want your asset to appreciate.
Of course.
Right? And if you're buying it, where it should be, in 2-3 years from now in terms of the market conditions, then you're going to be waiting 2 or 3 years before it appreciates.
It catches up to that value. Yeah, and even then, you're only just breaking even. If it only just appreciates, if you overpay it and you're 2 or 3 years away from where the market's going to catch up.
Right.
By the time those 2 and 3 years should be working in your favor, not just catching up, as you say, from underwater.
Right. Exactly. So let's say you get the home appraised, right? You're call a mortgage broker. You want your home appraised. You want to get financing for it. And the appraiser goes out, does the appraisal, does a good job in the appraisal because obviously there are some appraisers that don't do, the best job. Does a good job in the appraisal. It comes in less than what you were expecting.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good thing. That should be a good thing, right? Because he's stopping you. Let's say he kills the deal. He's stopping you from making maybe making a financial mistake.
Yeah.
Whereas the appraiser that goes to your house and say, well, how much you want me to put on it? You know what? It's show him or her the door.
Yeah.
Because what you're looking for is an unbiased
opinion. Yes.
Right? For an example, I'll give you an example. We do, like I said, a lot of divorces, separation, that sort of thing.
Yep.
And we're completely unbiased. So before accepting any new clients, we always say we're unbiased. And the reason behind that is if we do have to go to court, the judge sees right through bias very, very quickly.
Yep.
So if they agree to that, then we can proceed with the work. So I was doing an appraisal on a house on Grand Lake, right? or close to Grand Lake, and my appraisal came in at somewhere around 300. The other appraiser came in about $150,000 less.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so they. So obviously they were, in negotiations. They said, how could this be? And then this lasted for 2 years. And then they had me go again to appraise it again. And then after 2 years, the market had grown, right? The market conditions had
changed.
Exactly. To a point where it was now, let's say, worth, mid 300s.
Yeah.
So it's great. You say, okay, well, you go to the appraiser, okay, I want a low number, and the appraiser gives you a low number. Well, you're trying to make a decision which will affect really the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And if they give you a biased opinion, Well, now you may be, you may have to pay more.
Yeah.
Where if they had give you an honest, unbiased opinion,
Yep.
and our appraisals had been the same, the client could have been like, okay, yeah, let's settle on this at this number.
Yeah.
Right. But now they're stuck paying, that much more because the original, the appraiser didn't give them an unbiased opinion.
Of course.
Right.
And that's what an appraisal is to give you a real reflection of the home value.
And that's exactly right. It isn't, we're not forecasting.
No.
So, because nobody knows, right? CMHC has been calling for market correction now for like 8 months.
Yeah.
Right. And it hasn't happened.
No.
Right. So nobody knows. Nobody has a crystal ball.
Yep.
So what we look at if your house had been exposed on the market and competed against all of those other homes,
Yep.
it would have sold for X as of the date of inspection.
Yep.
Right. It's not to say if you list your house 30 days from now at the appraised value, it's going to sell for that, 90 days after, because once again, nobody has a crystal ball.
Yeah, we can't predict the market. We can look at ongoing trends and say, okay, this is what's happening. I always tell people as a realtor, if anyone tells you that they can predict, over a year away, it's
well, like in January last year.
Yeah.
Right. Would you have been able to predict 3 months down the road?
No.
You wouldn't have been able to.
No.
Nobody saw it coming. Right?
No, nobody. I could,
Nobody.
And also when COVID hit,
Right.
nobody could have predicted May, June, July, August, and what happened in real estate in Halifax.
Exactly.
You could have given me 1,000 guesses.
No, exactly. There's no chance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's just, like I always tell my clients, right?
Yeah.
if they call and they say, look, we want to know what the home is worth. And I say, well, why do you want to know? Do you want to refinance? Do you want to use it for estate? What have you? Like, oh, we want to list the home.
Okay.
And when I say, okay, well, you may not need an appraisal, right? And I explain to them the principle of substitution.
Yep.
And I explain to them the three main variables.
Yep.
And I say, look at what your house is going to be competing against, and then compete against that house.
That's how you sell.
And that's how you sell, right?
Yeah.
So for me to go in there, charge you $500 to tell you that your house is worth X today.
Yes.
Isn't telling you what your house is going to be worth 3 months down the road.
No.
So when you're ready to list, right, look at what you're competing against.
Yep.
Right? In those terms, location, size, and condition.
Yes.
And then, list your house accordingly.
And be honest.
Be honest with yourself.
Be honest with the condition.
Divorce yourself from the emotions.
Yeah, just be honest with the condition. That's where a lot of people trip up.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the fact that oh, my kitchen's better than theirs. Well, their kitchen has an extra some odd square footage. It also has an island. Your galley has a window, but it's still technically it's be honest with yourself when you're accurately trying to assess your home.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of people get caught up in, you hear it all the time. My children grew up here. It makes it special, and I'm like, I understand that,
Yeah,
and I appreciate that.
I know.
But a buyer does not care.
That's the market. It's hot right now, but it's very cold in terms of like the people buying your home. They're very, very cold.
They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care at all.
That's right.
You could tell them. They might, and the buyer might fall in love with the home and write a very touching letter, but that touching letter is for the buyer seeing themselves in that home. They're not going to pay an extra, $5,000-$10,000 because something special to you happened in your living room.
Right, and I think that's the value in the realtor.
Yes.
The value in the realtor is that they can look at, they can negotiate for you, and they look at the deal with kind of unbiased eyes, where like I was saying, that's the value of the realtor.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that when you're negotiating, he has no emotion tied to the house.
Yes. And I'm glad you made the distinction because I didn't know that about appraisals. Like I didn't know you guys didn't look ahead and project.
That's
as
right.
we as realtors, all we do is assess what's happening in the market in the next, what's going to happen in a month, in 2 months. Like we can, as long as you watch the stats, you can get a decent idea of what's going to happen in the next month and a half to 2 months. You can usually project as to what price it should sell for based on what the comps are selling for.
Right.
And where the market's going.
Sure. right? However, who would have thought that the Buccaneers would have won? Right? I mean, even
Brady.
Yeah, fair enough. Brady, right?
Brady.
But okay, well, who would have thought that the Bills would have gone so far?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
No, I
mean,
understand.
like, you can look at all the stats you want.
Yep.
But in the end, you have to look at the competition, and
Yep.
you have to make your assessment with the competition that's on the market.
Yes.
Right? So, like, projecting for me as an appraiser is very, very
No.
well, it's very tricky. Like, I would never do it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, because let's say an agent says, okay, well, I think your house can sell for 500.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I think your house can sell for 500. Let's put it on the market for 525.
Okay.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say it stays on the market, for 60 days, 70 days. You're like, well, maybe we should drop the price. Okay,
Yes.
fine. You drop it to $499. Okay. So it stays on the market for another 45 days, 60 days, what have you. Okay, let's drop it to 475.
Yep.
It sells at,
60.
Yeah. Okay. It sells 460. Okay. The agent isn't tied to that value.
No.
So the agent says to you, your house should sell for 500,
Yep.
right? You can't go back to the agent and say, wow, where's my 40 grand?
Yep.
You can't,
Yep.
right? They're not liable for that.
Yep.
Okay. Whereas appraisers,
Oh.
if we say that your house should, in 3 months, your house should sell for 500,000,
Okay.
and you've exposed it to the market, and it doesn't sell for 500 grand, well, where's my 60 grand? Where's my 40 grand? Where's my 60 grand?
Are you liable?
We're liable.
That's unreal.
Yeah. So, and that's why appraisals are so expensive, right? So
Yeah.
let's say, I go out and that's why it's a point in time appraisal. A lot of the things we do is a point in time appraisal.
Yes.
Whereas if you had put the house on the market 90 days ago, it would have sold for X as of today. And, appraisers need to explain that to their clients.
Yeah.
Right. And that it isn't a forecasting exercise. It's if you had put your house on the market, it would have sold.
Today's the 26th. So as of January 26th, 2021, if you had put your house on the market today, this is what we believe you would get.
Exactly. So that's why banks use appraisers.
Yes.
Because in the end, let's say they put a mortgage on it and the appraiser said it's worth $1 million. And then, 3 years down the line, it forecloses and, they can only sell it for 500.
Yeah.
Well, then the appraiser is on the hook for the rest.
Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah. Well, as long as he does his or she does her job reasonably well.
Yeah.
Then, they don't have kind of a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
Right. But if she doesn't or he doesn't, then at that point, now he may very well be liable for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting to think of it like that, just because it's a different way than we look at it.
Right.
And also, like you said, we're not liable.
Right. So like to become an appraiser, as an example, you need to have a university degree, and then you have to get you have to apply through UBC school, Sauder School of Business. And then once you have, I think, 2 courses, then you can start appraising.
Wow.
But then you have to do another, I believe, 6 or 7 courses.
Okay.
And it's called an applied experience program. It usually lasts about 1 or 2 years.
Yep.
Some people do it in 3 to 4 years. So once you're done the applied experience program and all your courses at UBC, at that point you have to do like a 5-hour exam in 3 hours. Then you have to do a board interview, and once that's all completed, then you can sign off on your own work.
Wow.
Right? Because there's so much liability to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Have to be.
Yeah. So we're just liable. That's basically it, man.
You're just liable.
Yeah, we're just liable if we don't follow what appraisers should be doing.
Yep.
Right. And it's an overvaluation, undervaluation, what have you. Then we'd be liable.
Okay.
Right. So as an example, I was at the Supreme Court, and how can I put it? There was a trial about a separation of assets. Right.
Okay.
And so, I gave my testimony. The other appraiser gave her testimony. And the judge ruled that the other appraiser's appraisal was an overvaluation.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So then, basically said, Mr. Dawood's appraisal is the true value. Therefore, I'm going to rule that the value of the home is such.
Yeah.
Right. Well, great. However, it isn't great because, my client spent thousands of dollars on me, thousands of dollars on her lawyer, and the other party spent thousands of dollars on her appraisal and thousands of dollars in court costs.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why, I'm not sure whether or not they pursued it and said, okay, well, it was an overvaluation. It was ruled as an overvaluation. We want some money from you. I'm not sure if they pursued it that far.
Yeah.
But, if you're found to be, negligent in how you do your job, then, there should be some consequences. Just like there are, we're just talking off the record here, like you said that...
we name and shame in real estate.
Yeah, you name and shame in real estate. And those are consequences
Yeah.
that, people should live by. Right?
Yeah, of course. How often do you go to trial? Like, how often are you in court for an appraisal?
Right. So we do quite a bit of, like I said, divorce estate appraisals, right? So
Yeah.
let's say we do 3 or 4 a week.
Yeah.
Right. Doing that with our company for, let's say, the last, 7 years. I've only gone to trial twice.
Okay, so it's not every day.
No, but in terms of getting called to court, subpoenaed and what have you, that happens quite often.
Interesting.
Right? So, but usually right before going to trial, they settle because they don't want to have to spend the court costs. Right?
Yeah.
And that's why we're unbiased. We don't want our clients to spend $225 an hour for us to sit there and say, well, this is the value of the home.
Yeah.
Because they shouldn't have to.
Agreed.
Right? Both appraisals should really be the same.
Yeah.
Right? If you're doing it in an unbiased way.
Of course.
Right? One thing, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right? But we do so many of these that if your listeners, if someone is going through a separation divorce, a couple pieces of advice. One, whoever contacts the appraiser becomes the client.
Okay.
Okay. Even though both parties may be paying for it, it doesn't matter. Whoever is the first point of contact now becomes the client.
I wish I wrote like that in real estate.
Right. Yeah, sure.
Anyway, yeah. Go on.
Right. And so the second thing is that the most recent value is the most relevant, right? So then, and there's legal precedent for that, right?
Okay.
So that some people say, well, wait a second, we separated back 2017. Let's get the 2017 value.
Okay.
There's legal precedent to say, no, you need to have the most recent value, the 2021 value or the 2020 value or whatever, whenever the most recent appraisal was done.
Yeah.
Right. So if you call an appraisal firm and they say, okay, well, we're actually going to be doing a retrospective appraisal for 2017. Well, you may be throwing good money after bad.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a couple, tidbits there for your
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That, once again, it's different than real estate, how we do it.
Yeah. So, and in terms of real estate, if they are going through separation divorce, we know it costs quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
We know that it costs, $400 or $500 to get an appraisal. Get the appraisal.
Yes.
Because, real estate agents, they're not recognized as value experts in the courts.
Yep.
So let's say you were to do a CMA for your client, say, I could list this home for this and realistically sell for this. And, my commission is this.
Yep.
And your client then brings that to the courts. They don't usually
go after the realtor.
Well, not that they go after the realtor, but they don't consider that as a value.
Interesting. Okay.
As an opinion, as an opinion of value that's recognized by the courts.
Yeah.
Whereas the appraisers, they're recognized as experts in valuation.
Okay.
Right? So you would have to be recognized by the courts as a valuation expert.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now, going back to houses.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the questions I get most often is the refinance process. How does it work to get an appraisal out? Appraiser out to the house to do an appraisal to get the house refinancing, to get money out, to take the equity out of the house, right? So how does it work for you guys when you get a call from a client to show up for an appraisal? How does that look and work for you guys?
Okay. So let's say a client from off the street calls me up and says, we want to refinance our home, because we want to take equity out or what have you. First thing I say is, okay, call your bank.
Okay.
First. right? And the reason behind that is the main, 5 banks, the major 5 banks, they all use a third-party management company, appraisal management company. So whether it be, RPS, FNF, Solidify, Nationwide Appraisals, FCT, there's a whole bunch of them. And so they'll order one for them, right? So then, a lot of appraisers say, okay, yeah, sure, I'll come out, appraise your home, charge you $500. And then you get the appraisal, you go to the RBC, and the RBC is like, oh, that's great, but we're going to have to order our own appraisal. And by the way, you're going to have to pay for it. So, it could be, throwing good money after bad. So first things first, call your bank, say, look, we want to refinance. What's the process for the appraisal?
Yeah.
Right. And then they'll go through it with you. For other lenders like credit unions, RMG, there are other lenders that will allow you to order your own.
Yeah.
Right. And at that point, it's very simple. Call the appraiser yourself.
Okay.
Don't get the broker to do it. Because if the mortgage broker calls the appraiser for an appraisal, then even though you're paying for it, because he's the first point of contact,
he's the client.
He's the client. So the appraisal belongs to him, or her. So, you wouldn't necessarily have access to the appraisal to then shop it around to different brokers.
Interesting.
So if you're not going to go to like the major banks and you can say, okay, well, I'm going to go, get my own appraisal and I'm going to go through a broker, order the appraisal yourself, and then obviously get the appraiser to make it out to you. And then when you've decided on what lender to get or what lender to use, at that point, the appraiser can give you a letter of reliance.
Interesting.
Right. And that's usually an extra cost. For us, you charge you for the appraisal, and then the first letter of reliance is free.
Yeah.
Right? So it's all part and parcel.
Okay.
But yeah, so first thing, ask the bank. Second thing, get your own appraisal if you're not going to go to one of the major lenders, and then you shop it around.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you're going through a house, right? How does that process work for you guys? Do you guys when you're doing an appraisal for a house, where do you guys start? Where do you guys go?
Yeah. So it's super simple. Like it's usually the same, right? Between appraiser to appraiser. We go through the house twice, right?
Okay.
We take interior pictures and notes. So we don't miss anything. And usually you're opening up every window, you're turning on every tap. If there's crawl spaces, you're going through those. You're looking at all the mechanical systems. You make sure you don't miss anything. Now, because of COVID, new COVID protocols, we don't touch anything. Right?
Yeah.
So we'll go through the home, take pictures and notes, and we ask the clients to open up all the doors. So we have access to everything, and then we make assumptions. That your windows are working or your plumbing is good, that sort of thing.
Yep.
Then we go outside and we measure. So the measurements are the exterior measurements. We don't measure inside. And we go around the house a couple times. We measure all of your exterior improvements, your decking, your driveway, that sort of thing. And then it's back at the office. Usually takes around 2 hours to produce the appraisal. And that's basically, usually it's a 48-hour turnaround time from the date of inspection to sending the appraisal off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they'll get their appraisal amount, which they then can either shop around with the bank to bank, or for the refinance, or their bank will let them know what the appraisal amount is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So, So obviously there's benefits to both.
Yep.
Right. But for myself, I always like to get, an appraisal done on my house, call an appraiser, get them in here, appraise the house. And then even if I go to the CIBC or the World Bank or the TD, at least I've got the appraisal with me.
I was going to say, wouldn't it be better for the client, even if they're shopping with the big banks, to get the appraisal done themselves?
Yeah,
and
but
then go?
It's quite a bit of money, man. Like, $400 or $500.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I understand the investment, but the return is going to be, because typically when you refinance a home, you're expecting a return. You're hoping to take out a large chunk of change that doesn't get capital gains on it. There's a lot of benefits to refinancing, getting that mortgage, getting the equity out of a home. I know it's a chunk of change, but that's just houses.
Yeah, no, but I mean, in terms of the cost of the appraisal,
yeah,
right. That's a lot of money. Where you're basically going to get it appraised twice.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, because the bank wants if you provide yours, the bank is going to want to do their own.
Exactly.
Okay. And how, like, is that every circumstance you see? Like if say a customer calls you, you go out for the customer or the homeowner to do an appraisal, homeowner takes it to the bank, and then the bank, like, regardless, will always send someone out?
I don't know.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But even before we go out, we always tell them, look at, check with your bank, because if we can save our clients money, we will.
Yeah.
Right. And we would hate to go out there and charge them money that they really don't need to spend, because I may actually go out and appraise it again. Right. Like it may actually come to me. Right.
Wouldn't that be funny?
Right.
Hi.
Yeah. So
remember when you paid me, $400 to $500? I'm here again.
Yeah. You have to pay another $400 or $500.
Would you, if that circumstances happen, would you have to go through the process again for the bank, or would you just say, listen, I did this last week, or is it to be true the date thing?
Yeah. So then I would have to go back and actually look at the home again.
Okay.
Right. Just because, if I'm going to say, if I say that, okay, January 1st, the house is worth X, and then now the bank wants it, February 1st.
Yeah. There's been a difference in time.
Well, it's not so much a different time, but is the house still there?
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Like I just have to make sure that, the house is still there, and then I have to look at the market data again. But really, a month in the winter is not going to make that big of a difference. But it's, is the house there? Has anything happened to it? Have they gone out and like removed all of the granite countertops and the kitchen? And I mean, I've gone through homes where for separation divorces, and people have gone through with sledgehammers and broken every single window, and I just appraised it, a year before, but now it's completely destroyed.
Really? So, you've had that happen where like you don't want to appraise, so you had to go back and it's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
Not often,
okay,
but enough to think like, oh my gosh, guys, you're destroying your asset.
What are the benefits of someone doing that?
Well, let's say you're staying in the home.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to stay in the home. You're going to take a sledgehammer and you're going to bust up the windows and you'll bust up the walls.
Yeah.
Right. Well, then the appraisal is less. Therefore, you're going to have to pay the other party less.
Divorces.
Right.
Oh, yes.
So then, but what happened in this situation was that the said, you know what? I want two values. I want one before it was sledgehammer, and one after, right? As of the date of inspection.
Yeah.
Right. So not the value last year, but the value, like, let's say today.
Yeah. If
it had not been demolished like it has been.
Oh, that's an interesting take.
Right.
Okay.
So I mean, and that's just fair.
Yeah. Of course. It's I mean, someone takes a sledgehammer to a home, you're deliberately devaluing exactly. The home.
That's right.
And divorces get messy.
And for your listeners, it's the last thing you want to do. Last thing.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Of course, if you're trying to divide up an asset fairly.
Yeah.
And the court sees you. Now, this is me going way out of my wheelhouse. I am a realtor, but like I just imagine if the court sees you, doing something that would be frowned upon or would seem to be dishonest or disingenuous when you take a sledgehammer to a home to devalue it so that your spouse doesn't get as much money as they normally would be inclined to, I imagine that is not a good representation of character for the court system.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Yeah, that's interesting. A sledgehammer to a home.
Yeah.
Oh, you must see some things.
Yeah, no, we definitely see some things. Yeah. So in terms of a refinance, that would be my advice to your clients.
Yeah. Call the bank first.
Yeah. And also, I would also get your clients to ask the bank whether or not all of the improvements can be included in the appraisal, and if all of the land can be included in the appraisal. Because sometimes a lot of lenders, they'll say, okay, well, there's a 2-story home with an attached garage, but there's also a detached garage.
Okay.
A lot of the lenders say, okay, we want the value of the house with the attached garage, but we don't want you to include the detached garage.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, the appraiser can go out there and appraise the home. Well, it really isn't the true value of the home if we can't add all of the exterior improvements.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So I would ask the lender that.
Yeah.
So can we include all of it?
Okay.
Right? Because if we can't include all of it, then you're leaving value on the table.
That's right. Especially if you just built that detached garage
Exactly.
to add value for the refi.
That's right.
Because if you want, like, obviously with the refi, you want to pull as much money out of this home as you can to go do whatever you want with it.
That's right.
If the appraisal can't include certain things, you're just going to leave money on the table.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys not usually include the land or the lot?
Well, okay. So here's an example, right? We're just doing an appraisal out in Pugwash, right? 100-acre lot, barns and, stables and what have you. But the lender only wanted the house and plus or minus 5 acres.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, if I were to include the entire 100 acres and all of the exterior improvements, it would be substantially more.
Yeah.
But they don't want us to include that. Some lenders don't want to include that for a residential mortgage. So a residential mortgage, you can get, your 1.59%, locked in or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
But that's the requirement, is that you can't add, things that could be used, commercially, that sort of thing. So, whether it's a farm or whatever it is.
Okay, so that's a good distinction to make, to understand, is that with residential, they don't want you to include commercial things.
Right. But I mean, you can still do a residential mortgage and include, you can still do a residential appraisal, include a couple of garages, and those garages aren't used for commercial purposes, but they still don't want you to include those.
Yeah, but you can ask the bank to include them.
I'm not sure if you can or not.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's because I'm thinking really about like that investment strategy we talked about before we started the podcast with like the BRRRR, buy, renovate, refinance, rent, repeat. For those of you that don't know, it's just because the refinance part of that strategy is such a key asset. And if you get something ruled out of your refinance or the appraisal, you're going to lose money. You're going to leave money on the table. And that's something to be wary of, because like when it comes to that type of strategy, the more money you pull out of the house, the quicker you can put that money back into your next investment, and you'll have a bigger renovation budget to be able to tackle a bigger project.
Right. Sure.
Interesting. Do you see things like kitchens being excluded, or like say someone does a brand new kitchen or like a brand new ensuite? Would that be have you ever had an instance where the bank has told you not to include that in your?
No.
Okay.
No. I've never had that happen.
Okay. So just like exterior things, like maybe the lot size or like
lot size or big barns or
pools.
No pools. No, pools we would include. Yeah.
Okay.
I know a lot of realtors say, well, pools don't really add the value, but if you look at the market data, they really do, right? So if you're going to spend, $60,000 in an in-ground pool, it's going to add, quite a bit of money, right? If it isn't an over improvement for the area. Yeah, I mean, even if it is an over improvement, it's still going to add something.
Yes.
Right?
I know why realtors do that. It's just because we look at, and just it's experience of working with buyers, because it's subjective. Like pools and a few other things are so like a hot tub or a jacuzzi are so subjective. Like some people is going to look at that and say, yes, summer with the kids, family barbecue nights, friends over, we can host. Another family is going to say, I don't want to clean it.
Then don't show them houses with pools.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I mean, there is a market for pool. There is demand for homes with pools.
100%. Just like there's a demand for hot tubs and a games room. Yeah. There's someone has a demand for a basketball court. Like that's buying is so subjective.
Yeah. There's also a difference between a fixture and chattel.
Yes.
Right? So in terms of your hot tub, really, unless it's built into, a concrete patio or a deck, we really wouldn't consider it a fixture.
Yeah.
We would consider it chattel.
What is a fixture, just for the listeners?
Okay, a fixture is something that's actually affixed to the land.
Yep.
Right? Or affixed to the house, right? So your fixture, would be like your electrical fixtures. That's affixed to your house.
Yes.
Right? Your TV, that's a chattel.
Yes.
That's not affixed to anything.
No, you can pick that up and leave with it.
You pick that up and leave with it. Same thing for the exterior improvements, right? As long as it's affixed to the land, like your in-ground pool, that sort of thing, your decking, your garage, that's a fixture to the land.
Okay.
Right.
See, yeah, and for those of you wondering, like when you write an offer, there's a condition that says fixtures and chattels.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you really need to make sure that you specify those in the offer.
Yeah, you need to write down in bold words exactly what you want, because you can negotiate for, I've seen some weird things negotiated for in a deal.
and if you're listing it, even though, like, and I've come across this before where hot tub was listed in the listing cut.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And even though it wasn't included in the purchase agreement, they still had to give them the hot tub.
Because it was in the listing cut.
It was in the listing cut, and in the listing cut, it did not say, hot tub not included.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard of that being taken that far. Our rule of thumb, as I've been taught, is if it's in the APS, APS is agreement of purchase and sale. Mm-hmm. If it's in the agreement of purchase and sale, then it stays. If it's not, that's where it gets subjective.
Exactly. However, this was a transfer. They didn't want to get into it.
Yeah.
So they just gave him the hot tub. But, maybe they would have said, maybe they would have, they would have taken a small claims court, and then the judge would have ruled in their favor because it wasn't in the APS.
Yes.
But there's an argument to make. Well, it's bait and switch. You're putting it right there in the MLS.
That's the only thing, is it should not have made the listing cut. Like I was in a home a few nights ago, just talking about getting ready to sell in the market, and the homeowner had said had mentioned this custom light fixture that her mother had built, or parent or someone in the family had built this custom light fixture, and I said, take it down now. Don't even leave it in the property. Don't give it a chance to be seen.
Right.
If you want to keep it and it's a fixture, if it's fixated to the house, take it down now and put it in storage for when you move and when we go to buy. Because if a buyer sees it, you never know, they might want it.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of people losing their minds over oak wooden toilet seats.
Right.
I've heard people losing their minds over a certain type of blind or curtain in the wall. Like when a buyer gets fixated on something and they want it, it becomes, it's negotiable. That's what it is. It's just you can purchase it.
Sure. And it's a gray area as well, whether or not, it should be included in the purchase price. Like light fixtures. Well, that's, you should really include that in the purchase price. Like, right. So, no, that's really good advice.
Bathroom mirrors. That's another thing.
Yeah, sure.
Because they're not attached to the house. That's something like you have to include if you want the like I know people that took the mirrors from the house, and because it wasn't in the APS, it wasn't my deal, but it wasn't in the agreement of purchase and sale.
Sure.
So the new family had to go out and buy new mirrors. Yeah. I know, I've also heard of like the not so great ones where, like, I've mentioned this story before on the podcast, but like a new home construction, like, maybe 10, 20 years ago, brand new house worth $500,000. The sod wasn't included, so they took the sod.
Okay.
Now the lawyers got them involved, and they got the sod back because
I would think that would be the case.
Yeah, but like the builder's thought was not on agreement of purchase and sale. They didn't include it. Maybe I can save anyway. It's the things you see contested on that document is it's not all the time, but once I know someone that bought a car with a house.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I know someone that bought.
Because it was in the garage.
It was in the garage. I know someone that did that. That literally wrote an offer, and the buyer wanted the car, so they included the car's value in the purchase price, and added it as an additional clause of the sale.
Right. You see, so was that in the listing cut?
No. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't in the listing cut.
No,
right? So, but then let's say the agreement to purchase and sale says, okay, well, the house was listed for $200 and it now sells for $220.
Yeah.
Okay, so that data is how can I put it? It's a misleading point of data
for you guys.
Data point for us.
Yes.
Right, because we wouldn't necessarily know that. Well, wait a second, a car was included in the purchase price.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get it.
I was doing an appraisal on a house on a lake.
Yeah.
Right, and it was on an island, limited access, that sort of thing. And the points of data were very clear. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to get to where he was. To get to the price that he was paying for it.
Yeah.
Right? I explained the rationale, I explained, the principal substitution, I explained the direct comparison approach, the main contributors to value. And he's like, well, what about this sale? And I said, yeah, I understand that sale. However, I contacted the seller
Yep.
or the seller's agent on that sale, and there was a boat included with it, ATVs included with it, all the furnishings were included with it, everything was included in it.
Such a typical real estate transaction out in like the urban area.
Right. So then, yes, okay, it's sold for like 125, but once you remove all that chattel,
It brings it down.
it brings it down.
Yeah.
And at that point, then it comes within the market trend.
Does that happen to you often? Where like a deal just was put together and someone included a chattel that just made it above what market value dictates, and you have to go and dig and call agents to say, hey, what happened here? You sold $150,000 over asking, and they're like, oh yeah, we sold the Ferrari.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
But it does happen.
Yeah.
Right. And then that sale becomes an outlier because it's way over the market trend, and then the appraiser really does need to call the agent.
Oh, it's
and
interesting.
They say, and ask them, well, what in heaven's name happened here? Why did it sell $100,000 over? And then you realize, okay, well, all of the furniture was included, or whatever it was, right? But that shouldn't be part of the value of the home.
No.
Right. So when we go home, let's say we go into a home for an estate, we include none of the chattel.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then I'll refer them to one of the auction houses in the area, and they'll go out, they'll appraise their furniture or whatever it is, and then they can deal with it that way.
But I think that's a distinct difference between how you guys find, because you guys look at like you said, location, size, and condition, and you're strictly in that criteria.
Well, it's look at it. You guys do a CMA, right? It's comparative market analysis.
Yep.
We do what's called a direct comparison approach.
Okay.
Okay. And a direct comparison approach, it's a multivariate analysis.
Yep.
And the three main variables are always location, size, and condition.
Yeah.
And if you look at the market data, it's extremely correlative.
Yep.
Right. So you got a 2,000 square foot home, sells for $200,000. $200,000. You got an 1,800 square foot home, sells for 180.
Yeah.
Let's say it's that correlative.
Yeah.
Right. In the urban centers where there's a lot of data. Let's say I'm doing something in Alton or something in Pugwash.
Yeah.
Where there really is no data. At that point, then we really have to expand the search in terms of location, and it may not be as correlative.
Yeah.
But then we cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? No, I understand that. The only reason I make that distinction is just because I know that sometimes you'll get a listing as a realtor. We'll get a listing for a condo that's fully furnished, or we'll get a home that everything's included, and we have to come up with a value for all the furniture plus the house.
Yeah.
And that's where our distinctions might deteriorate a little bit, or where the lines get blurred, because we're like, okay, well, this couch is probably worth, this dollar. You compare it to other couches. Exactly.
What I would do is I would call, one of the Crowther Bailey or one of the auction houses.
Yeah.
I'd say, look, you guys, we're selling this house. Could you please come in here? Let me know what this is worth.
Yeah.
And they'll charge you a few $100. I don't know. I'm not sure how much they'll charge you, actually, to be honest with you. But I think that would be the best way to do it. And then you can kind of separate the two.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, it make your life easier.
Well, it would definitely make your life easier, right? For sure.
Rather than just having us skewer the numbers because someone wanted to include some chattel in a house.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh, that's so, man. Okay. Well, David, thank you so much for today. I've learned so much, man.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Anytime.
Yeah. We'll bring you on again next year. Okay.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
All right, David. Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
Bye. If you'd like to get in touch with David, you can reach him at 902-449-7215 or david@abacusappraisals.ca. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, you can reach me at 902-220-7357 or jason.paul@kw.com. Thanks again. Bye.